Hello and welcome back to another episode of the GCFC pod. I'm Jake, and again, I'm here with Marcus following the PSG Arsenal fixture. You guys know why we're here. I think we should just get straight into it. Marcus, what are your thoughts on the game from Wednesday?
Disappointed, frustrated, not really surprised. I mean, my prediction was that we win the game, but that's more just me being biased as an Arsenal fan. The way we started the game as well, it kind of like got me in a bit, led me in, thought, we can have these, we can win this game really well. Just really frustrated because obviously, the league, 3 games left, means nothing really. I know we still need to qualify for the Champions League, but it's just very down in the dumps. The Arsenal, you don't want to be on the Arsenal social media pages right now. I can tell you that.
I can imagine. And you mentioned the strong start. You can start there. Now I've got on my notes in the first sort of 8 minutes, you guys had 3 big chances. It started early, 3 minutes in, or less than 3 minutes in. Rice heads just wide. Before 2 long throws caused problems. The first, Martinelli 6-yard box, Donnarumma just makes a complete reflex save. I don't think he knew much about it, but you just naturally, when you're at that level, you can make that save. And then the second one, Odegaard runs onto the ball from on the edge of the box, low shot, and Donnarumma kind of like saves it. It looked like such a good. Well, it was a good save, but he kind of like saved it while it was behind him, which is why I think it looks so like, oh my days, like how has he done that? So 3 early chances, and surely at that point, and rightfully so, you and if you're watching it with any other Arsenal fans, you must be thinking, we're right in this, because the feeling in the ground. Well, yeah, I didn't mention that I was there, but the feeling in the ground was definitely that it's okay. This is Arsenal aren't coming here to play around, and it's not going to be an easy game. So I think those 3 big chances, do you think missing or having those 3 chances, 1 missed and 2 saved, would have affected your sort of Arsenal morale negatively in a way, because you think, what have we got to do to get past this guy, following on from the first leg as well?
From a fan's perspective, I mean, it gave me something to get behind, and I was really buzzing because like each chance was going by, I knew we'd come out and we have to come out and we were 1-0 down, but I was surprised by how quickly we started. And Declan Rice misses the header within 3 minutes. Martinelli has a shot saved off a throw-in. Odegaard has a good long shot, gets saved, and you're like, I was really pumped. It was getting me something to go behind. But obviously there is that negative side of it where you feel like you've already having all these chances. An early goal would be so big, and you just can't score. Whether it's a close range header, a close range shot in the box, a long shot which many keepers might not save, he saves it. So it's a really positive start, but it kind of a story which it has felt like most of this season is so many chances, so many close calls, but not putting it in the back of the net. And that's why the Champions League run, especially in the knockouts, has been so surprising, thrashing PSV, because we think we'd struggle to beat PSV, where we thrashed them. Real Madrid, didn't think we'd beat them, thrashed them. So it makes it so strange that, you can thrash these teams and then you get to the semi-final. Maybe it's the big stage, which many of these players haven't really been on. Maybe it gets to them. That's maybe my thoughts. And obviously, you don't take them chances and you just think, is it going to be our day? And then obviously they get the goal, and it's
because I think, like you said, with the Odegaard and the Martinelli chance, I don't think they can do anything differently, and it's just great saves. The Rice one, I'm not disappointed because I'm not an Arsenal fan, but I think on the UCL semi-final stage, that could go in, and that completely changes the game. And you mentioned the experience in the big stage as well. One thing I read in the paper is that with the starting 11s, the average amount of UCL games for the PSG squad is 42. Marquinhos has like 110 or something stupid like that, which obviously brings it up. And the average Arsenal Premier UCL appearance is 21. So it's double in the PSG team, and we still see them as quite like they've got young players, but they are experienced, and that can always sort of play into it. Like you said, Arsenal started fast. The atmosphere in the ground before the game was rocking. Early doors, I'm sure down the other side they were still bumping like they normally do, but it was definitely a bit reserved. And then one moment which I think brought the sail, like, or blew the sails of the PSG fans, was when Kvaratskhelia hit the post. He cuts in from the left hand side, whips it far post. Hits the post square and it comes straight back out. But I think from that moment, the fans in the stadium and probably the players as well thought, okay, we're not just going to have to defend for 90 minutes and against a team with the chaos that Arsenal can bring from the throws that they really emphasize, the corners and just open play as well. You can't just defend for 90 minutes. So I think that shot, whilst it didn't go in, I think that gave the PSG players and fans the belief that we will be able to score here. And it wasn't long before there was another PSG chance in around the 23rd minute. Saliba plays a short pass to, I think it was probably to Lewis Skelly or someone on the left side. It doesn't quite make it. Barcola intercepts it and they kind of mess up a 2-on-1 a bit. It wasn't, like a perfectly, it wasn't a perfect chance, but it was a scoring chance. And this is where I sort of thought the momentum was from Arsenal dominating at the start, which they did. It kind of goes to a bit more of a contested game where, Arsenal have had 3 chances, PSG have now had 2. And do you sort of feel at that point when you're watching it, okay, we're not in control as we thought and we're really going to have to try and fight this one out?
Yeah, it was quite scary how quickly it shifted because don't get me wrong, I didn't expect us to be dominating straight away as we did, so it took me by surprise. But also, I thought we'd get more chances, a bit more possession, but then came from mistakes to the back again. I mean, the Kvaratskhelia one wasn't, but just like the Saliba misplaced pass, and really Barcola should have done better. It was kind of straight at David Raya, really. I mean, the Kvaratskhelia one, we were lucky because obviously, like you said, just a bit more inside and that's a goal and it's a great finish. Raya wasn't getting it.
No. And I was right behind that one. It was
oh my God.
It was one of those ones where it looked like it was going to make it in or hit the inside of the post and it goes wide, but made for a better game, I guess, in the end.
Yeah,
they missed
it's
the
just
play.
Yeah, it's just disappointing because we didn't capitalise on the good start. I mean, you could just see the pressure just keep coming back at us, and we weren't helping ourselves losing the possession at the back. And then obviously not long after, the 1-on or the 2-on-1 chance and hitting the post, then they actually did get their goal. And you kind of just see the pressure just kept mounting and they actually took their chance. I mean, yeah.
So you mentioned with the goal as well, I can't quite remember, or maybe I wasn't paying attention to how they got the free kick. Do you remember who gave the free kick away? It was on sort of your right-hand side of the area.
I want to say it was Rice, I think.
It could have been.
I think it was Rice.
Neves puts the ball into the box. Partey he heads it away, which you do, but into not the best area. But obviously he's backpedaling. I think it was a great touch by Ruiz for his chest to sort of perfectly weight it past Martinelli. And one thing that I don't think was that evident on the screen, I was literally directly behind the shot like that. It took in my memory, it took a way bigger deflection than what it looks like on the screen. I think it's the angles they got, but the way the ball spun into the net and the way it sort of cannoned off, I think it was Saliba.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
you couldn't quite see on the telly how big of a deflection it was. Of course, it's a great strike, but I think it's just typical that that's Ruiz's first Champions League goal. I think that's his 47th appearance. So it's always the people you least expect, and I think there was definitely a feeling of relief at that point. Not that, of course, it's not one, but you get that cushion. And one thing that makes me want to talk about is, so in the first leg, Dembele gets a goal in the 4th minute.
Yeah.
Arsenal played this tie for 176 minutes behind. You've got to think that, obviously being behind in a tie is, changes your mentality, changes the way you look at the game, and changes the way you and the other team play. So what do you think of, do you think Arsenal are a team that are more comfortable sort of being in front, whether that be in a game or even in the league? As in, would you rather be first 3 points up, or would you but you could also be a game behind, with a game in hand and 3 points behind? It's a similar situation, but you've just got that pressure of we're the ones who have got to do something here. We're not the ones who can force the opposition or the other teams to have to step their game up.
I think when we have the pressure on us, we crumble. When we're the ones in charge, the ones leading, whether that's league position or just individual games, last season before this season, we tend to do quite bad when we're actually in front. Can't really put my finger on it, to be fair, but this season in the league, we've gone in front a lot of times, and I just doesn't look like we're going to get that second goal. And it seems like we need some sort of slap on the wrist to say, come on, wake up, you need to do better. Because whenever we go one goal up in the league, I, as an Arsenal fan, don't believe that we're going to get the second most of the time, because that's how bad it is. Because even though we've got the goal, I don't think we play that well and take advantage and get that second goal. So I think being behind wasn't really too much of a problem. It's just, obviously, one goal down, it's not really too much of a problem.
No,
obviously, you've got to go away to a very difficult ground. But the problem is, it might be a topic later on in this, it's just there's nobody in the box to, there's crosses coming into the box and nobody's there at some point. So you just need that striker to be there because it's a tap-in. In the box, nobody's even close to picking up the second ball. It's stuff like that which you don't really have confidence going forwards that your team can capitalise if there's an easy chance. And that's the thing. We had all those chances at the start of the second game.
Yeah,
we didn't capitalise. And as soon as I know PSG had a couple of chances before, but it's just their ruthlessness. They're clinical, and I know it did get deflected, but I don't feel comfortable when the team's ahead, to be honest. So I think I'd actually rather the team be behind than be the ones chasing. Obviously, it didn't really work out well in this individual game, but
I think it's interesting psychologically. I guess we've played ourselves not at this level, but I think it will definitely play a part. Like you said, 176 minutes to be behind. To maybe you feel not in control of the game, but you're the team that has to be proactive. So you could say maybe Arsenal are comfortable being behind, and like you said, if you go ahead, you're not always comfortable. And I think that's probably, like you said, the missing part to become a champion. I feel like I've never supported like a team. Well, Torquay have won a league, but not like a Premier League champion. I feel like those teams probably think when they get that first goal, the game's basically done. They have the trust in whether it's the attack to go and get more, the defense to be able to hold out, and maybe like the manager as well. But I guess there is just that something missing. And you mentioned with the box presence, do you think so? Ruiz, Marino was up front for this game. I think he was fairly quiet, but do you think that the game would have been different had Havertz been available, or do you think this is something that's down to the next transfer window, or something that you guys haven't acted upon? Havertz isn't necessarily the answer, and it's just something that Arteta lacks at his disposal.
Havertz would have made a difference in this game, but whether it would have been enough for me to say I'm confident that we can go to PSG and win it more than I was without him in the team, I don't really think there's much of a difference there. And I do think that striker which we are looking at, Havertz was brought originally to be a midfielder.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's been a striker, and he just doesn't really suit it. And you need the rest of the team firing as well, which is the problem. I know it's quite typical to say, but last season in the running in the Premier League, he was doing fine. We were smashing teams on top of it, dominating. Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, all fit and firing. He was doing fine there, but when you need, you get a couple of chances in the game, you're not playing well. I wouldn't back Havertz to take one out of those two chances in the game. So I couldn't really say as an excuse, if Havertz is there, I think we'll win the game. We definitely need a new striker in the summer. Who that will be, I don't know. We're definitely getting one. I'll be amazed if we don't.
Definitely.
Yeah, the presence in the box just isn't there. Marino just wasn't really effective, which was annoying because when you see him at the back end of the first game, we were getting a bit more, luck with the loose balls and stuff to the back end of the first game. But this game, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, he was being disruptive in the first game, and Marquinhos isn't always the best in the air. You saw Rice sort of tower above him, and for the chance at the beginning, I think Marino, didn't change the game in the first game, but I think he definitely looked better than Trossard. But PSG obviously done their homework, and I think he was pretty ineffectual. And there was one more chance before half time. Lewis Skelly, sort of in a similar situation to the sort of Saliba, he plays a pass, it doesn't quite make it. I've got that Kvaratskhelia intercepts it. He sort of centers it to Barcola, who cuts inside, and Rice does. Because initially I thought it was a terrible decision. He shoots sort of near post, it sort of rolls on the floor, and it looks like there's so much room at the far post. But upon looking at the replay, I think Rice did, an incredible job. It's probably understated because I haven't really seen anything about it. To first of all press Barcola, and I'm fairly sure he got a touch to sort of direct the ball into Raya's hand. So I think that was, a goal-saving sort of massive challenge by Rice. And then second half, Saka receives the ball right-hand side like he does, cuts in like he does, gets a yard from Mendes, which isn't easy to do, whips on far post, and Donnarumma stands tall again, tips it over. And we said earlier with the 3 chances, this is the 4th one where it's like, okay, we've got to do something special to beat this guy. And in the same, so this was an action-packed minute. In the same, so that Donnarumma took it out for a corner. The corner comes in, and Saka sort of finds himself at the back post under pressure from Kvaratskhelia. Saka goes down, and obviously this is the corner that I was in as well. Kvaratskhelia, I just want a quick word on him actually, because obviously we've heard of him for a few years now. I'm not I've never watched Serie A. I've got no links to Italy, or I've never really had like a soft spot for one of their teams. So of course I heard good things about him, but I've never seen him play. He is quickly like becoming one of my favorite. I won't even say just PSG players. I just think overall players. I think, like I said, when he came to PSG, I didn't really know what to expect because he had a great season in Napoli, but I just didn't read into why they let him go and like what's the deal with that.
Yeah,
how hard he works is incredible. We said this before the first game, and he's demonstrated it for 2 games in a row. The way he can cut in and create chances, he's not selfish. But like for me, the main thing is the hard work, and I genuinely think from watching the Arsenal Real Madrid ties and then watching the Arsenal PSG ties, I think like this could get flamed. I think he's an upgrade on Mbappe, maybe not necessarily as a player, but for the team and for what PSG want. I genuinely think what he offers going up and down the pitch is incredible. So Saka goes down, he's shouted at him. Meanwhile, counter goes on. Yeah, Hakimi, I'll get to him later. Sort of plays 1-2 with Doué, and he shoots and low shot into Raya's hands, and nothing really happens. Ball goes up the other end, and I think the referee sort of holding in his earpiece, and I think that Neves ends up getting fouled, and the referee goes to the monitor, and it's checking penalty in the ground. I'm not sure what showed on TV. It just said possible penalty, but with the actual penalty that got given, Hakimi didn't call for it. No one called for it, and there was no shouts from the crowd. It was just kind of like he just had a weak shot. All right, get back in position. We see on the screen VAR check. Oh my god! Because obviously all I can remember is Kvaratskhelia shouting at Saka like right in front.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, bro, that was so long ago. Goes to the monitor. It's a very quick review.
Yeah, it's quick.
He checks it. 10, 15 seconds. Points at the spot the other end. Wait, were you watching at home, or if you were out and about? Where were you watching?
I was watching mainly here in the accommodation. I didn't miss the first 15 minutes. I had it on my phone on data, and I was like in the street. I was just like, guys, we're in here. We're doing so good. We're on it. We've got this sort of thing. And I watched the rest of the game in my accommodation, and I was sitting with one of my mates. West Brom supporter, and I thought he was just having me on here because it was a penalty, the penalty shout, like you said. And what I remember was Saka being like, I can't remember, was pulled down, took down in the box. And I was like, we've got a penalty here. Like, we've got a penalty.
Oh, we're in.
We got. Like, I was literally celebrating, like, oh my god, we're going to get a penalty. And then he goes and says to me before anything's even popped up on the screen, no, it's a penalty for them. And I'm like,
what?
I just swore at him in a joking way. Get over it. Like, it's not a penalty for them. What has happened for us to give away a penalty? As soon as it shows it on the screen and his hands there, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
it's been given. I don't
So that
know.
got shown straight away. Like
I
so the
don't know if
replay
it is
came
a
up straight
penalty.
away.
I don't. Yeah, he did give it really quickly. I'm still undecided whether I do think it is a penalty or not, because the hand is in a not great
Yeah.
position, but I think it's harsh. But I'm just shocked because that shows to not celebrate too early, because I literally couldn't remember that moment. And I was like, I didn't
No
even know
one
it hit
had
his
the
hand. I thought it just hit his chest. So I was obviously buzzing because I thought at this time, you score this, it's, a goal back into it, just one goal to score. And then they get given it. And I'm like,
Yeah, because it
yeah,
just
it's
goes
over.
through his fingertips, doesn't it? And then,
Yes.
like I said, Hakimi didn't say anything. Due was in the area. I didn't notice him saying anything. And what I kind of remember is when it came up, VAR check, the stadium was booing.
Simon.
You see on the screen, see on the YouTube, the referee goes over, the people behind the monitor are like shouting at him. In his head, he's probably like, what
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, like you said, was it a penalty or not? I think in today's game that always gets given because they talk about like an unnatural position. I don't think, obviously the shot wasn't going to go in. I don't think it massively affected the trajectory of the ball, but yeah, when in the slow motion you can see it like connect with the fingers, I think that always gets given. And as soon as that gets given, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Martinelli get taken off.
Yeah.
We sung Lewis-Skelly's praises in the first game. Like we said, we both gave him our man of the match. I think he struggled on Wednesday. Not necessarily uniquely to him, because you could say I don't think Saliba was particularly good or Kiwi or either. But yeah, so it was a struggle for him, unfortunately, and same for Martinelli as well. I think he looked very dynamic at the start of the game. He was taking on Hakimi.
He started well.
He was getting to the byline. He was forcing Hakimi to commit to tackles or give away corners and throw-ins, which were just as probably more dangerous than corners for Arsenal with the long throw. But I think he faded out of the game, as wingers do. You don't want to be too critical. And in the second half, I remember a couple of times where he'd either like run the ball out of play or just wouldn't really do anything with it and lose it. Yeah, he looked tired, and I know there's memes about like he's not Brazilian, but I was thinking that, and I'm not surprised that they got taken off. The Vitinha penalty, it's a weird one because he did the same against Liverpool, and Alisson almost got to it. So I don't want to say I'm like surprised he's taking penalties. If you're the taker, you're the taker.
Is he the main penalty taker?
I guess so. I mean, he took it there. I can't remember if Dembele was on the pitch because I know he came on late, but no, I think he might be. And I just think that slow run up. We've seen over the years, like with the success rate of people like Tony. I'm pretty sure he scored like Ivan Toney's had the longest penalty streak, or he scored like 100% for a while. And Fernandez obviously used to do his hop. The Vitinha thing is not like one of them. It doesn't seem like it's one where you move slow then fast, or it's not a pace thing. I guess he's trying to wait for the goalie to move, but I think Raya does an incredible job to keep his cool. He got clowned for the Everton penalty. I think it was against Everton where he dives like pretty early.
He always dives really early. It's not just the Everton, it's other games, and sometimes it works. But I think it worked in his favour that Vitinha went slow himself. And as well, his shot didn't have much power on it. So it was one of those where Raya kind of held his ground and, made a very good save. And I was happy at the time. Like I was struggling to be that vocal in the second half because I was just like, 2-0 down, not really having much chances. We've got 20 odd minutes left plus stoppage time, whatever. And that's where I was like quite buzzing, but he saved it. But then as soon after he saved it, I thought, well, we've still got to get at least 2 goals here. And not concede.
Yeah, it's a bittersweet moment, isn't it? Because, like I said, I think Raya deserves a lot of credit. I'm guessing, of course, the players do so much prep. Vitinha will have seen Raya's last penalties. He thinks, okay, he dives early.
Yeah.
My penalty relies on them diving early. This should be perfect. And of course, we can't see inside his mind what he's thinking, but you would maybe assume that he's going up to it, assuming he's going to have an easier time than normal. But like we said, Raya's got to be given a lot of credit there to hold his nerve, away in front of the ultras. Big moment, huge, like game tie deciding moment. If that goes in, it's over. He holds his nerve, gets down to it well, and yeah, I think he does have a lot of credit for that. And we've mentioned a Saliba giveaway, a Lewis Skelly giveaway. Neither of them resulted in a goal, but for the PSG second goal, Kiwior gives the ball away, another sort of pass. He kind of overhits it, or I don't think Timber was on like the same wavelength, and the ball sort of kind of gets free. Like I mentioned earlier, Kvaratskhelia, he picks up the ball inside the PSG half. He drives down the wing. He's not running particularly fast. He's just got space to run into. He gets into sort of within 12 yards of the goal, sort of between the 6-yard and 18-yard box. He sort of puts in a low cross. Partey doesn't really put his foot through it. He kind of doesn't really do anything with it.
Really bad.
Yeah. So whether that was a communication issue or just a sort of brain malfunction.
Yeah.
Ball force of Dembele, lays it off. Really nice finish from Hakimi, and I think you could sense the relief. Of course, there was still 20 minutes left, but I think when it's 3 and no away goals, Arsenal need 3 to take it to extra time in 20 minutes. I think there was a massive sense of relief at that point, and for you yourself, you must be thinking at that point,
it's on the wall.
It's done. Yeah,
I did think it was done. 2-0, 20 minutes, still in with a shout. 3-0, and especially with not really coming out in the second half too great. I did just think it's over, and that's the third goal was the killer. Really, it was like, it's over. Let's see if we can get a goal or two, because I don't want to, be in a semi-final and not even score a goal. Obviously, we did get the goal, but
so we'll get onto that goal. And so I said to Kiwior, give the ball away for that one. He actually plays a nice sort of long pass diagonal into an area, into the channel for Trossard to chase. He does really well, and I guess you could call it a battle with Marquinhos. And like, even as someone who's like following PSG, that's not foul. So I was we spoke about this last week, when the defenders go down, it gets given. And I think there was a couple of incidents on Wednesday where they weren't given. So I'm pretty sure the referees were probably briefed on it. And they said, look, this had happened last week. We don't think that was a foul. Let's not give any of that. Marquinhos goes down. I don't know if you saw, as he goes down, he tries to sort of grab the ball, but it sort of like slips out, and Trossard's through. I think I'm not even. I know it sounds like I'm just trying to discredit. I think it was quite lucky how it ended up in the back of the net. So Trossard sort of tries to cut it back. Pacho sort of heals it with his sort of off foot, and Saka. You got to, I guess, give credit to him. He's making those runs which you'd want a striker to make. Putting himself in dangerous areas in the box. Beats Hernandez to the ball, who they kind of slide. It takes like a sort of double ricochet, and Saka finds himself a cute angle. Finally, he's got a goal to shoot without Donnarumma in it, and he makes no mistake this time in putting the ball away, and he tries to sort of get the fans up for it, and that was only a few minutes after the goal, so it goes 3-1 at that point, and I think that's when. Again, the relief sort of leaves, and it goes back to, okay, look, it's now 2 again. We didn't score for no reason, but we've just undone our work. I'm guessing you agree with me that it wasn't a foul on Marquinhos?
No, I don't think it was.
Yeah, I don't think so, because like we said, we don't want to be encouraging that. And
Marquinhos was too much.
Too
much to get away with it. They get given fouls.
Yeah, and he obviously thought it was gonna happen for him, but fair play to Trossard for not being scared to put in those challenges, because it wouldn't surprise me if some players started really sort of not challenging. So fair play for him to challenging and putting the ball in a dangerous area, and they get rewarded with the goal. And 4 minutes later is I don't know if we can say it's like the fate deciding moment. Ball sort of scrambles around in midfield. Calafiori finds himself on the left wing, puts in a ball into sort of the danger zone, and Saka puts it over. What are your thoughts on that chance? Because initially, the way he kind of like slid and ended up around the goal, I thought he was a lot closer. Then when I watched the replay, I like Saka. I'm not going to like criticize him for no reason. I actually think that it's a harder chance than it looks. There was a few factors. So if you've got thoughts on it, you can go, and then I'll say what I think as well.
I mean, I haven't looked back at a game replay wise, because I just can't bear to do it at the moment. I will do it at some point, but in the moment when it happened, I thought the cross had a lot of pace on it. I don't know how it actually seemed, how it actually was. I thought, but the fact that the ball went past the keeper, it's an empty net. But I think the ball was going quite quick, and did it bounce up just before him, or I can't remember.
So, like you said, I think one that we always sort of we give UCL football different standards to Prem, as in when you're in those clutch moments, kind of like an international tournament. If you're in that position, in that semi-finals, that finals, those are the chances you have to take because it's not easy to get those chances. So I think we can definitely say that, as in he gets his foot on it, he'll want to score there. But like you said, you haven't watched the replay. The ball, it does move with a lot of pace. It does bounce up. It's on his weak foot, which I know shouldn't be as an excuse, but it's on his weak foot. He's actually further away than I thought. Like I said, in the moment, I thought he was literally on the goal, not on the goal line, but within the 6-yard box. I look back, he's about 8 yards away. And Donnarumma also sort of is in front of him. He dives, he doesn't reach the ball, but I definitely think that, you see it in your peripherals. He'll be seeing it coming over from there. Donnarumma dives in front. And even if that millisecond of you think Donnarumma's going to get to it. So I think there was definitely a few factors. I saw it was 0.8 XG, but I think that's 0.8 hard. Yeah, 0. I think that's very hard. Wow. So they've equated that chance to basically a penalty. But I like I said, I know a lot of people, especially some people from the group chat, they might comment on this video that he's not very good and he's to score that. But
that did get slated in the group chat.
But you'll watch it back, and I think you'll want him to score, but it's not like an easy chance. And for him to have scored it, he kind of would have, in a way, I thought he'd have to be really stretching, so he can't sort of sky it, if you know what I mean. So it sort of just finishes along the floor, slides along the floor. But it was bouncing, and I don't think it was an easy chance.
That was, I want to say, around the 80th minute or something.
Yeah, it was in the 80th.
At the time, that's kind of where, after he missed that, you thought, it's just not, 2 goals in 10 minutes in stoppage time. It's not out of reach, but it's pushing it, and you need to get a goal in the next 5. And you thought, with that chance, open goal, I know the ball's coming at a pace, this just bounced before him. That's where I was in my chair, and I got out of my chair, and I literally screamed. I was like, oh, that was literally the moment.
And it's harsh, but like you said, I think, from there on, I think PSG defended really, very well. Of course, the stadium was getting a bit nervous. I spoke before about of course, it's not a proper curse, but people in Paris sort of think they haven't quite had in the past what it takes to get over the line, whether that be the remontada, whatever they call it, against Barcelona and stuff like that. But I think that was the last chance of the game pretty much, and they defend it out and bring it to a close. Obviously, I mentioned Kvaratskhelia. I think he had a good game. Worked hard for the badge like he always does. Plays with the heart on his sleeve, and becoming one of my favorite players. Hakimi as well. I think one crazy thing, and this might sound like newbie. Obviously, I support a team in National League South, right? And this is the highest standard game I've seen. I've been to a couple of Prem games, but Champions League between 2 of the best 4 teams technically. Yeah. Hakimi was one of those players where I was looking at him, just watching him throughout the game, that you can't do when you're watching on television. Mm-hmm. He is him as an athlete, of course, as a footballer as well, is something that won't leave me. Sounds like I'm about to burst out crying. I got moved by Hakimi, but when you see it in person and you're damn, these guys are serious, not that
non-stop running.
In the 80th minute, he made a bombing run forward. In the 83rd minute, he had a surging run as well. And even for the goal, he's right back or as a wing back, and he finds himself on the left hand side of the area. I'd love to see how much ground he covered or how many sprints. Yeah. Watching him, at the beginning, we thought he was struggling because, as we said, Martinelli started so well. But I think obviously I don't just sort of giving goal scorers the sort of man of the match and stuff like that. But I think he genuinely had I saw a compilation of all his actions, and I think defensively he ended up doing really well. He worked so hard, and I think this group of PSG players, of course you it's not the same for you. I think they actually come across as very likable. A lot of them are hardworking. The young ones are pretty cool, if you know what I mean. They're not Mbappe was kind of he was likable but dislikable in a way because he's quite ego, and I think they the PSG players, they work hard for each other. They sort of keep their heads down, and I think they're a very likable squad. So I think with my sort of man of the match, before we move on to some other things, would be, I'm going to give it to Kvaratskhelia just because I just love the passion. I love the hard work. As a winger, that's literally what PSG were missing all these years. Have you got a man of the match? I know you haven't watched it back, or is that something you want to pass up on for the game?
The wingers obviously played very well. I mean, don't know if I'm giving it to another goal scorer on Ruiz. I know it's deflected, but I thought he had a good game.
Yeah.
Donnarumma played well, but not good enough for man of the match. But he did make some good saves. For a man of the match for us, or best player for us, probably say Timber. I think Timber played really well, to be fair.
Yeah, it was much improved.
Last game. Besides that, I'm struggling for Arsenal, really. I mean, Saka, maybe Raya, but I'd say man of the match overall, I'd say Fabian Ruiz, but the wingers as well. Like Kvaratskhelia, like you said, I mean, he was there to be brought in January, and I know by rumours that PSG had done a lot of groundwork in the summer before, but it just makes you think, like, we need a left winger. We'll be looking at a left winger this summer, hopefully. There was an opportunity to spend 60 mil. I know his fees and agent fees and wages.
Yeah, of course, but
if you want to be a serious team, there's a player right there you've just played against who was available, and I'm very disappointed we missed out on him. And great.
Yeah, he did really well, I think, and we can see it in the sort of the footer going across here. So Arsenal this season, so you've made to the Champions League semi-final, which I think is, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like an overachievement, but like we mentioned before, it's something that you'll 100% take, especially beating Real Madrid. That's the 3-0 against Madrid's got to be probably the club's best night. It's the most enjoyable night to be an Arsenal fan in a long time. You don't want to take that away. The league slipped away, and of course, your guys, it will be a very slim chance for you to not get top 4. So if you look over this season, didn't win FA Cup, Champions League, disappointing, but decent overall to get to the semi-finals, and the Premier League slipped away in a year that I thought you guys were going to have it because no one expected Liverpool to be this good. Maybe we'll have a full episode on this with some of the other Arsenal fans. Would you say that this season is a success, or do you think that silverware is something that is basically essential in defining like a season?
Success, no. Failure, I'd hold off on that just yet. I'd stick it in the middle, which is quite,
that's fine.
On the fence sort of thing. But like the league, very disappointing because we were meant to be the team where City drop off, we're there, and obviously Liverpool don't really sign many players. Well, did they sign any? I don't think
they got like Chiesa, which is
that's literally it. Yeah, and new manager goes and wins the league. Very frustrating. We haven't even been there this season in terms of like really competing with them. We haven't been top of the league at all. The FA Cup going out early against United on penalties, disappointing. But we always seem to get out the FA Cup early nowadays. But I'd love to do better domestically next season. I mean, the Carabao Cup semi-finals, we got absolutely dominated by Newcastle. But it was surprised to see us get that far. Because we don't normally get that far on that. Obviously, it's just been the Champions League you've been relying on, and as much as this season, you're never really gonna, if you compare it to other teams in the league who are looking at definitely winning trophies, you're not going to remember Arsenal finishing second and finishing the semi-finals of the Carabao. You might remember them finishing semi-finals of the Champions League, but it wouldn't really be the Champions. It would be the quarter-final, and it'd be, do you remember that night when Declan Rice scored 2 free kicks? Unfortunately, the moments led to nothing, but we will never, that moment will never go. But the season, if any Arsenal fan says the season's been a success, they're mad. It hasn't. And, I'm one of those fans where, this summer upcoming is meant to be, I mean, I'm going to use the words which they say, the unprecedented summer. We'll see. And he will be backed. He won't be sacked, even though a lot of fans are being toxic and calling for his head. He won't be sacked. But this upcoming season, I mean, if he gets back properly, striker, left winger, Zubimendi probably, backup keeper, etc., and he doesn't doesn't win something, he should be gone, in my opinion. I mean, he's been there how long now? 5, 6, 7 years.
Quite a lot of phases that we're
I've
in
lost
now.
count. Yeah, too many phases. We're meant to be.
So you think, like, as of now, you think, like, one other thing, like, I mean, we're going to get a full Arsenal episode. I won't be there because we'll get plenty of you and the Arsenal guys on to discuss the year and just the feeling around the club as a whole.
Yeah.
Do you think that he is a manager who can take you guys to run? I think you've got like an FA Cup under him. But do you think that the sort of, I don't want to call it crumbling because it's such like a harsh word, but losing in a couple of semi-finals, second in the league, do you think that it's a mentality issue? Do you think it's a manager issue, a player, like a personnel player issue, or do you think it's just like a combination? It's pretty hard to put your finger on it.
It's difficult to put his finger on, but I think the mentality side of things. He said something in his post-match interview, which I was quite annoyed with. He said something like, "We've been the best team in the competition." And I thought, like, we've just lost in the semi-finals. Like, say you got it. Say we'll be back next season, or do whatever you need to do and get out the interview. Don't try and fill people's heads with a load of rubbish, because statistically, maybe we've had the most XG, whatever. But Inter barely conceded any goals, and they're in the final, so they've been better, And I don't like it when he's saying we've been the best team in the league. Like, read the room. We've just lost in the semi-final. Don't be trying to fill us Arsenal fans' heads, and then you see the tweets saying, we've come of age this season. Like, word your tweets.
It's a bit like
come of age.
It's frustrating as a fan, because I completely agree with you. I've seen like a couple of clips. I heard that people were getting annoyed with him. Apparently, Rice did a pretty good interview after the game, which was a bit more realistic. I think the one thing that with Arteta, of course, managers, like, obviously I don't know them personally, but they're like perfectionists. They take a lot of pride, and obviously losing hurts all of them a lot, because I think if it didn't, they probably wouldn't be in the position they are today. But I think when he's getting that reputation, a little bit of excuses, and we saw the interviewer sort of pressing him a little bit, like, who said that you're that? Who said you were that bit? Who said you were the better team? But I just think as a fan, it's probably quite annoying to think, okay, does he think? Because what I mean is, like, the point I can't really get to. He's saying that they were the best team. Does that mean he isn't going to change, and he's just going to try and do the same again? And I'm not saying that's the right or wrong thing, but by him saying that, it basically suggests that he hasn't done anything wrong, and it kind of seems like he's trying to. Of course, he's probably meant it to include the team as well, not just himself. It kind of doesn't fill me with the most hope, if I was an Arsenal fan, that he's gonna be able to adapt in a way or change a couple of things that need to be changed to get you guys over the line. And one more thing, just before, like, I don't want to. Hopefully, the Arsenal fans will see this, and you guys will pick this up in the episode. We talk about sort of the set pieces and obviously attacking, defensive, like, conceded the most in the league, or like percentage wise, I think, which isn't great. But attacking wise, and we saw 11 long throws yesterday, and I saw a stat which was like the 11 long throws you took yesterday was like the most under Arteta, and the second most in the game that you've used is 5. So you've gone from 5 to 11 in the leaderboard. Do you think that the sort of reputation, I guess it is, like, I won't say it's like a reliance, because you guys have played some decent football over the years, but the reputation that you guys are kind of getting for the set pieces might have played into the actual squad and the management group, where they kind of now rely too much on it, even though it was, of course you guys were doing well, and it's always good to just have set piece goals to clutch up. And Gabriel got that one against Spurs. I think it was a 1-0 game, and they're good to keep it sort of ticking over and get you an occasional goal. But do you think that the reputation of reliance has kind of negatively affected Arsenal, where Arteta might not rely on it because there's open play as well, but do you think it's affecting the game in more of a way where you're playing less football because of the set pieces? Or do you think, of course we'll never know, but do you think it's a positive thing? Or
the football has definitely decreased in terms of when the ball's on the pitch, it doesn't seem as bright, and there's been a lot of reliance on the set pieces. And I massively agree with your point of set pieces is a good thing to have in your Arsenal, no pun intended. It's a good thing to have up your sleeve, but don't rely on it so much, because I know Gabriel's injured and stuff and all that, and we've conceded a lot of set pieces ourselves, but it's not something, I hope that hasn't crept into the Arsenal camp themselves, that, set piece FC, all that sort of stuff. It's good to be good at them, but
of course,
do your job on the pitch and actually take some of your chances more often, because most of the games we play, we are the better team, but there's moments in the game where I think there is a mentality issue where we don't capitalise, we don't take advantage, and some of the interviews I see after the game, I think they just kind of stem partly from the manager, because I get the kind of thing about kind of saying best team in the league. I don't really get that from a fan perspective, but I can get him trying to protect his players and trying to give a message to the players first and then the fans. But I don't want that creeping into the team, and I think there is a lack of mentality in the team. Obviously, no surprise that the person who does the interview after the game isn't the captain of the club. It's Declan Rice, who should be the captain. That won't be changed because I think it just causes too much disharmony. I want it to change, but I don't think it will change. And he needs to step up, Odegaard. And Declan Rice, couldn't have put his interview any better, really. Kind of what Arteta should have said, really, in terms of, we got it, you've got work to do. Let's move on to next season and end the interview there. Don't try and gaslight us with quotes saying we're the best team and stuff like that. And set pieces, the throw-ins was really kind of took me by surprise.
They're dangerous, but 11 is a lot.
That's a lot. Every time we get a throw-in, I seen it happen. I was like, because we're never really there for the second balls. That's the problem. I mean, obviously Martinelli had that chance, which Donnarumma saved from close range. I think that was the only real proper chance which came of it. And I suppose it gives PSG something different to think about. But
it
I don't like how over-reliant we are on these set pieces, and it might continue next season. I mean, God forbid we get the man mountain of a striker, Sesko, which I think we might. God, he's going to be.
Oh, please no!
You think you've seen that set piece coach a lot this season?
Imagine Sesko plays and you have Havertz in there as well.
It's a very frustrating time, and we need to get our act together, because we just fall short at every hurdle, and we've obviously now got a reputation of bottlers, and every next season again FC, all that sort of stuff. And it's very frustrating because one day we will get there, but it doesn't feel like that day's coming anytime soon.
Well, I think we've covered the game and a little bit of the season. I think we've also basically created a list of topics for the Arsenal special that we can hopefully get out between now and the end of the season or after the season. But I think we'll call it there. Of course, disappointing to not make it to the final, but overall you had some great UCL nights and only a second season back. One more, who are you backing for the final, Inter or PSG, or is it a bit too early, too hard to tell? Or
I think PSG will win it. I do. Obviously, they've just knocked us out, so I could be a sore loser and say Inter go and win it. I'm not really too fussed. It'll be nice to see a team who hasn't won it before, and then Inter, can't remember when they've won it, but they haven't won it recently, have they? It'll be nice to see a new team win it besides the standard Real Madrid, whatever.
So fate.
It'll be a good watch, because I mean the game the night before on the Tuesday night, I was like, wow, we've got this next game to watch the next day, which is still eventful, but what a game that Inter Barca game was.
I missed so many goals in that game. Like the week before, my Wi-Fi was down. I missed 6 goals. I was out.
Crazy.
For the second game, I get home for extra time. I missed 12 goals in the UCL semi-finals. And I think apparently it's just the way the teams line up just made a really interesting match, and hopefully we'll see something similar. But with the UCL finals, they always just seem to be 1-0.
You back in PSG?
I want PSG to win, just because I know going out will be just crazy. But I think if I had to actually put a money bet on, I'd just say Inter 1-0, because at least that would soften the blow. It's either PSG win and happy, or Inter win and win a bit of money. But 1-0 is always a good shout in the UCLs. But I thank you for hopping on today. Hopefully we've given a decent account of the game, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. So thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.